this one.
I need to spend a minute or two.
All right.
Here.
So,
well, you have to go back to World War II. World War II, the United States government, you know, we were in a quandary. I mean, World War II was a big thing. So you're looking at these nickels. We call these wartime nickels. And the reason we call these wartime nickels, and like I said, I don't know that I've ever had enough of these in this condition to ever offer them in prime time. This is one of the single most difficult wartime coins to get. So the United States government, we have, nickels are made out of nickel, but in 1942 to 1945, we needed nickel more than we needed silver. We needed nickel to make shell casings for World War II. So they made our nickels out of silver. These are actually silver. Now, they're not solid. I think they're 40% silver. So they took out the nickel part and replaced it with silver. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to put in this one right in on top of it. This is the reverse. And now I want you to focus in right here. Look at the mint mark. The normal mint mark on a Jefferson nickel is right over here, and it's stuffed down here in the corner. This is a Philadelphia mint. This is, by the way, the very first United States government issue coin that has a Philadelphia mint mark. Prior to this, Philadelphia mint coins just had no mint mark. It was the mother mint. It was, we called them plains when I was growing up. And you have a big P here, and if you go right next door here, you're going to have a big D and a big S. Look at that, that you're going to have. The reason they did that is they needed to be ocularly visible so they get their silver back after the war. So they could go through the nickels because they were worth way more than a nickel, but you had to have change to run a country. So they did these, okay, just like that. Now, oh, there we go.
Thank you for phone calls. That is completely sold out. Thank you.
Now, here's what it comes down to. I have 300 of these sets. There are, the war nickels, look, they were nickels. The government made a fair number of them, and people figured out pretty quickly they were silver, and they hoarded them. They put them away. And in circulated condition, they're relatively easy to find. I've sold thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of sets. At retail in circulated condition, they're about $100 or so. What I have got is original uncirculated war nickels. And that is the thing that you just don't have. And what I did is I like to give you, you know, if purchased individually, which is how most coins are purchased, prices. And I'll tell you what, of all the things that I had to look up, the war nickels were the hardest because you just can't find them in one place. And that's what I was able to do, is I'm able to put these to you. Look at those 1943 silver war nickel, absolutely beautiful, stunning, brilliant uncirculated. And so these are the prices, coin by coin, that I came up with that you can easily pay for these. 1942, and there's 11 coins. They made no 1942 Denver mint. All the rest are PDS, 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 except for 42. Ready for the pricing on an individual basis? $55, $46, $27.50, $21.50, $29.95. Then we get to the 44s. This was in the heart of the war. They made so few of these. $57.50, $58.50, $52.50. Those three coins are over $160 for just those three coins. And then we go $31.50, $28.50, $22.50, right at just a tad over $430. Just a tad over $430 is what we're going to do, is what you can find these out there for. We're $249.95. The interesting thing is once again, I started selling these, and once again, I'm a victim of our success here. And we basically, over the last 8 months, have bought every single one of these available in the marketplace. Unfortunately, because of that, we have also single-handedly driven the price up by the better part of 20 to 30%. So yeah, we can just give you 5 more minutes on these. I have fewer than 300 of these to go around. Now, we had the 30 years of Indian head sets, okay, which we sold 300 or 400 sets of at $199. I can categorically tell you, well, those sets are virtually impossible. This is a set that good luck finding these anywhere, let alone at almost 50% off what you'd have on the coin-by-coin price. Remember, this is such a part and parcel of American history. And this is the entire collection. They only made 11 of these silver nickels. They only made 11 of these silver nickels, and you get every single solitary one of them right here. It is truly spectacular. I want to put this other one up in front of it yet again, if I may, so that you can see the reverse. Even the reverses of these coins are spectacularly evident with the big, and the very first Philadelphia minted coins ever made by the United States government were the 42, 43, 44, and 45 war nickels. Because, like I said, the government wanted their silver back at the end of the war. And look at these, absolutely brilliant. You see the full steps right there. They're just stunningly beautiful and original, brilliant, uncirculated coins. Once again, getting these coins phenomenally difficult because almost all of them went into circulation. And if you're a coin collector, if you've ever seen one of these, it looks like a tarnished old piece of silver. As a matter of fact, they're quite ugly, because not only do they gather the dirt and grime, but the silver tarnishes as well, and they just look awful. But that's the way they're normally sold, for $100. What you never see are the coins in stunning, original, bright white, brilliant, uncirculated. Look at those coins with that original luster in the solid, or not solid silver, in the silver composition that they have here. The only nickels that the United States government has ever made out of silver. Now, they used to make 5-cent pieces out of silver, but they were called half dimes. That was in the back in the 1800s. They used to make half dimes, and they made those out of silver until 1883, when they started making a 5-cent coin out of nickel. And that's when they started being called nickels, as opposed to silvers. And we didn't start with these. We actually started with a 3-cent piece that was made out of nickel. It was the first non-silver, copper, gold coin ever made by the government. It was a 3-cent nickel. There were 3-cent nickels and 3-cent silvers. Okay, and then we went on to these, and so after 1883, all 5-cent pieces were nickels. Okay? Now these are silvers again. These 11 silvers that were in there as well. So not only do you have the intrinsic value, because a nickel's heavy, so it's got the equivalent silver to of a dime in there, okay? But they're silver. But then you've got the historic part of this, the incredible history of the fact that these were only made in 1942, 43, 44, and 45 for 4 years and 4 years only. There are 11 coins in this set, and you get the entire collection. More importantly, most importantly, these coins are made out of silver, and they are original, brilliant, uncirculated. These coins are difficult enough to begin with to get. But to be able to get them, and it's the condition that's the key. Look at that, 1943. These are not reprinted, restruck, redone in any way, shape, or form. Someone literally bought a roll of these nickels, and you have to understand, during World War II, we rationed butter, we rationed milk, we rationed eggs, we rationed gas. Everything was rationed. Every piece and parcel of America was put on war footing and war notice. People didn't put things away. Everything was used. So someone had to take these nickels and literally buy them and put them away for 50, 60, 70 years. Look at this coin. Look at the golden tone. This is probably the end coin on the roll, because it goes in these paper rolls. And look at that coin, 1943. We're looking at almost a 75-year-old coin. That's a phenomenal piece of American history, yet you're getting it in original, brilliant, uncirculated condition. Something that's absolutely, positively stunning and so rarely seen. Like I said, with everybody on the phone, I have maybe 100 sets remaining. Like I said, you've only got about 20 seconds to get in. We've had, what, 6 or 7 sellouts in this show, another 6 or 7 sellouts this morning, well over a dozen sellouts in the coin show today. And I want to show you one last time in the last couple of seconds, the reverse have the P, the D, and the S on the cap of Monticello, the only year that it's ever been done, the first American coins that have ever had a Philadelphia mint mark. All of that is included and inclusive in this entire complete silver war nickel, brilliant uncirculated set.
Well, enjoy. Continue to shop with us, busy on our phone lines. There is a possibility that this could sell out as well. So we are going to take the final break of the hour.